2017 meeting of the Athens City Planning Commission. A quorum has been established. All members are present. Is there anyone who intends to speak to the Planning Commission today? Just raise your right hand, and do you solemnly swear to tell the truth to the Planning Commission as you know it? Thank you very much. Disposition of minutes. Are there any comments, additions, changes? Sorry?
Minor edit. I reviewed and made a minor edit or two. But I would move to approve the minutes.
Anyone else? Is there a second then?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll have to abstain. I was absent.
Okay. There's 4 voting for and 1 who doesn't vote on it. Okay. Let's see. First case is case number 17-04. That's title 43 Wireless Telecommunications, 20A Monticello Drive, AT&T modification on existing tower. Mr. Suroy?
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners and public. This is a Title 43 Wireless Communications Review for 20A Monticello Drive in Athens. The project description is AT&T modification to an existing tower. The tower is at 190 feet, self-supporting tower with the new singular wireless equipment to be replaced. Is located at the 135-foot level. The proposed scope of work consists of the following: removal of 3 existing antennas, installation of 3 new proposed antennas, related associated equipment, the installation of 3 WCS band radio remote heads, that's RRH, installation of 2 DC power trunk cables, installation of 1 rectifier, installation of 3 breakers, installation of 1 alarm cable, installation of 1 fiber DC distribution system. No changes to the footprint of the tower will be made. This application is similar to Sprint's modification request on the same tower. The proper supporting documents were provided for the structural analysis of wind and foundation requirements. After a review of the documents, it was determined that it met with code requirements under Title 43. Facts. The applicant is New Singular Wireless, Jacobs Telecommunications. Property owner is Willoughby Management Company of 297 South Cassidy Avenue, Bexley, Ohio. Site location is 20A Monticello Drive in Athens. Tax map parcel is A as in Alpha 0290400001500. The zoning is R3. The estimated value of improvement is $15,000.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Suroy?
You referenced Sprint's modification request in the same tower, but is Sprint and Verizon the same entity? Because then we also have Verizon.
There's 3 layers of antennas
Okay.
on this tower.
So they're all cohabitating,
Yes, ma'am.
like we like.
Are there any comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
Also move. I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Next is case number 17-05, Title 43 Wireless Telecommunications. Again, 20A Monticello Drive, Verizon modification on existing tower. Mr. Suroy?
Yes, sir. The Title 43 Wireless Communications Review is Verizon Wireless on 20A Monticello Drive. In accordance with the Athens City Code 4307 Special Use Permit Application, Verizon Wireless is proposing to upgrade their system on the existing telecommunications site. The scope of work will consist of the following: swapping of 6 existing panel antennas, adding 3 new panel antennas, swapping 3 existing remote radio heads, adding 6 new panel antennas, swapping 3 existing equipment mounts, adding 1 new OVP distribution box. That's an overprotection, voltage protection box. This new request involves an existing 195-foot tower, that should be a 190-foot tower, correction. Modifying the platform at the 175-foot level. No changes to the height of the footprint of the tower will be made. Proper supporting documents were provided for the structural analysis of the wind and foundation requirements. After a review of documents, it was determined that it met with code requirements under Title 43. The applicant is Verizon Wireless. Rich Hansen is the agent at 18 Able Road in Bridgeville, PA. Property owner is Willoughby Management Company. The tower owner is SBA Communication. Again, the site location is 20A Monticello Drive in Athens, and the parcel number is A as in Alpha, 029040001500.
Again, are there any questions for Mr. Suroy? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
So move.
Okay.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. And finally, case number 17-06, Title 43 Wireless Telecommunications, 30 Park Place, Alden Library, Verizon modification on existing rooftop sled mount. Mr. Suroy?
This was reviewed by OU, and we have an email reflecting that from the Safety
They-
Service Director.
I don't believe they have it, but I do have an email. I sent it to Patty. I was just going to convey it. That Ohio University David Avarian from Real Estate Division, we have reviewed the Alden Library cell tower information internally and have no issues with the project moving forward. Please accept this email as approval from Ohio University. When it was presented last time, they had not reviewed, and so we asked for them to review it.
Okay. Just for our television audience, did you want to review the?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
The project description is a Verizon wireless modification on an existing rooftop sled mount. The sled is located on the rooftop of the building. The existing Verizon wireless equipment is to be replaced at the 80-foot level. Proposed scope of work consists of the following: removal of 3 existing antennas, actually reducing the number of antennas from 12 to 9. Installation of 3 WCS band RRHs. Installation of 3 new overvoltage protection boxes. No changes to the footprint of the sled will be made. This application is similar to other modification on sled applications on other buildings. Proper supporting documents were provided for the structural analysis of wind and foundation requirements. After review of documents, it was determined that it met with the code requirements under Title 43. Facts: the applicant is Verizon Wireless, Pyramid Network Services, LLC, and Brian Glaridan is the agent. Property owner is Ohio University. Tower owners Verizon leased space. Site location is 30 Park Place, Alden Library, OU. The tax map parcel number is A as in Alpha, 0270500000100. Zoning is R3. The estimate value of improvement is $30,000.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Does someone want to make a motion on that?
I'll move.
In a second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Suroy. Communications, did you want to move this up so that you can leave? Sure. Okay. Let's see, I would like to, in communications, take the Title 21 lot split Wanda Cash, 46 Canterbury Drive, and move that to the top of communications so that the mayor can make another meeting.
May I also request that we then move Title 21 lot split Jack Stauffer, since he is here to speak as well, in advance.
Okay, so move those two as first and second, and then the wireless communications at the bottom, right? Okay. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that's unanimous. So Title 21 lot split, Wanda Cash, 46 Canterbury Drive, application for a lot split and transfer, denied March 22nd, 2017. Mr. Suroy?
Yes, Commissioners, this was a requested lot split on 46 Canterbury Drive. The reason for denial, as indicated, was the lack of road frontage, and also it's an irregular lot. The appeal has been submitted and will be presented at the next meeting.
Okay. Any questions?
Once again, so this is a minor subdivision. we would be making recommendation to City Council for the variance,
Correct.
to be clear.
Anything else?
I did notify Mr. Ryan that he had mentioned he was going to be here, and he's not in attendance.
Okay, thank you. Title 21 lot split, Jack Stouffer, 124 and 128 North Lancaster. Mr. Suroy?
Mr. Stauffer has filed an application for a minor subdivision and requested, and this is a communication, and requested to speak to the commissioners on behalf of what he would like to do. And this is,
May
go
I?
ahead.
Sorry. Was that all we were going to have in terms of communication on the cash property? So we don't have it. I'm just asking the planning commission members.
Was there any additional material there? Or?
I mean, you know, we have the letter from the attorney, and then we have, of course, the code director's review of it. Okay, I'll just state, and I don't know how this works in terms of communications versus case, that speaking with the city engineer, it is imperative that if you look at Mr. Sorois's March 21st review, that items number 2 and 3 are included in consideration. So I just didn't know if we talk about that now to give direction to the property owner, or?
Well, I was in reference to Mr. Ryan not being here, which would transmit that to the
Okay.
owner. That's why I was waiting to provide that the next case, to present as a case.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so the Title 21 lot split, Jack Stouffer, 124 and 128 North Lancaster. Did we do that one? I've lost my place here.
Yes, that's where you were right.
That's okay.
So I apologize.
It's just the communications, and Mr.
Okay.
Stauffer's here to speak to what he would like to do.
Okay, Mr. Stouffer, you want-
This is an odd lot split.
okay. Could you state your name and your address, please?
My name is Jack Stauffer. I live at 69 Stonewood Place here in Athens.
I've never been through this process before, so not necessarily a good public speaker, so I'm pretty much going to read what I want to say. I'm approaching you in regards to my property at 124 and 128 North Lancaster Street. There is no 126 North Lancaster Street. 124 and 128 are directly beside each other. I'm not sure what you have in front of you from Mr.
You have this.
Royce. Okay. Yeah, you've got my application, and then I made a drawing at the code office's request of the existing property and the existing structures in regards to location on the existing lot and existing front and side setbacks on the first piece of paper that says existing in the upper left-hand corner. And the second drawing, which says proposed in the upper left-hand corner, is a drawing that I made at the request of the code office showing the additional information. The first information regarding the setbacks and so on is on the second drawing, as well as the physical dimensions of the proposed lot facing Mound Street and the size of the existing lot with showing the proposed back lot split off, which would be 6,800 square feet for 124 North Lancaster and 6,800 square feet for 128 North Lancaster. And if all my math is correct, even with reducing the size of the lots at 124, the existing buildings would only cover 14.5% lot coverage, and 128 would only cover 16.6% of the lot coverage of the proposed reduced size of the lots for 124 and 128 North Lancaster Street. And then I made a dotted line across there with a 30-foot setback, which is I think you would call arbitrary mark, just to let you know that there is plenty of room for the 30-foot setback. And then I proposed the new proposed lot being 100 feet wide, which would be the total width of the two existing lots, and 80 feet deep from the city right-of-way to establish the 8,000 square feet of the proposed size of the new lot, because I believe I'm aware that 8,000 square feet is the proper minimum size for a new city lot. Does anybody want to ask a question in regards to the drawings at this point?
So 8,000 is the minimum? I guess I'm struggling with a change that if you, this is a non-conforming existing, correct?
For the other two homes.
For the other two.
This is why it's an odd one for us, in the way it's being split also. And then the other, if I may, I managed to get a couple of comments. Again, this is just a presentation of the
Sure.
case. I met with Andy Stone, the city engineer, and I presented some drawings to you, which Mr. Soffer has also. The orange lines indicate the city sewer sanitation. The top, where you see Lancaster Street, and then line up with the two pretty much center properties, are Mr. Stoffer's properties. And then the recommendation that what he's liking to do is off of Mound Street. If you notice, the topography is uphill from Mound Street, both on the property and on the road itself, on the street itself. So in order for him to connect, he would have to pump uphill to either Lancaster line or down, or left and right, pump up either way from left and right to connect to the either sewer lines on the Mound Street, or get an easement between the properties across the street down to the sewer line below. So that was some concerns there, and I did present a map to this to Mr. Stoffer for his consideration. So that's what we pretty much have evaluated at this point.
Are there any questions or comments?
Oh, I have met with Jack, and I'm concerned now about the nonconformity. Does that then kick in once again that if you go to develop that in terms of bringing into conformance or seeking a variance?
It's a good question. We'll have to review it.
So,
So these
Could I-
two would be non-conforming.
So those,
These would be creating two
that's
non-conforming.
correct.
Wouldn't you, I mean,
Well, for the houses.
do you remember what section of code that was, Paul? It's in zoning.
so are the lots now non-conforming?
Exist
And the
grandfather.
non-conformity will be increased, or the non-conformity will not be affected?
Well, that's a
By
good
the
question. I
change.
would think that it's, I mean,
So,
I was told by Mr. Soroy, if I get this correct, I was asked to make the drawings of the existing lots with the existing houses with the existing setbacks.
Right.
Which you have in front of you.
right,
It's my understanding that I do not, in regards to 124 North Lancaster Street, I do not meet the front setback at this time.
At this time.
And don't meet the left setback at this time, because it's 11 feet 9 inches and not 12 feet.
so if it's side lot setbacks, then breaking off the back part of the lot, as long as you maintain, is it a 30-foot rear setback that's required?
Right.
As long as you maintain that,
That's
I don't
correct.
think that would increase the nonconformity.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's how we were viewing that.
Okay,
And in regards to 128 North Lancaster Street, again, it appears that I do not meet the front setback, and I also do not meet the left setback, as it is only 5 feet.
Okay.
Or the minimum lot size.
So Paula, is your concern that maybe the structure that's there would be removed and a new structure would be placed?
That is clearly not
That's not,
what's
not
being
the intent.
presented. It's just process.
Right.
If there's a non-conforming use and you go to enlarge or, change that, it requires becoming.
I guess,
That's-
So
right.
that's where I'm,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying is, say, God forbid, the house on that lot burned down and had to be rebuilt. And then it would have to be brought into conformance.
Right,
With,
correct.
and so so if, the side setbacks, there's probably not a lot you can do about at this point. The front setback, if you rebuilt, potentially the structure could be built to conform to the front setback. And if the proportions on these drawings are close, it looks like there would be enough room, even with the lot splits, to push the structure back to meet the front setback and still maintain a 30-foot rear setback.
Correct.
Is that essentially what you're seeing?
Correct.
Okay.
but again, would still not meet the minimum lot size.
Lot size, okay, so there's a second nonconformity.
So, and we have, we know Athens, look at this. I mean, we've got a lot of weird
we've got a lot of
existing
weird
small,
splits.
places that, were built long before that, those codes changed, so.
Well, yeah, agreed. And there's another one that's, I don't know, this is odd, but in looking at this for Mound Street, I guess.
Mound Street is what the new proposed
Right.
lot would
Correct.
face.
Sewer is what I'm looking at and so I guess this is a question, because I don't know. I don't know that code knows this right now. I'm curious, as I'm looking at this map, that what you provided to us, the aerial, the GIS, is what appears to be maybe 130 or 132, 134 Mound Street, Lancaster. And if you go north of that towards Mound Street, there's those two residences. How accurate is the orange line for the sewer? In other words, for those two homes on the west end of Mound Street, are they pumping up
They must be.
to North Lancaster?
I might be able to address that,
Please do.
not from your official map, but from snooping around up there yesterday. If I could, let me just go ahead and read my prepared statement for addressing the lot split, and then my prepared statement in regards to the lack of the sewer line in front of the proposed lot, because it will at least give my perspective and then possibly answer some of your concerns, and then we can go from there if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, I come before you to talk about 124 and 128 North Lancaster. Like I said, there is no 126. You've got the drawings. We've talked about that. I purchased the properties in the 80s. I purchased 128 North Lancaster first, and then a year or so later, after having it completely remodeled, I bought the house next door, 124. From early on, my thought in the future would be to split off and develop this new lot that would face Mound Street. As I prepared to downsize my workload, realizing that age is becoming a factor, I thought and am now considering and preparing to sell the houses at 124 and 128 North Lancaster Street. If these houses were sold to two separate owners, then the possibility of making a new lot available for a possible building site would be lost. In reference to what I think you folks refer to as the city master plan, which I have never read, of course, this split, of course, would be to my benefit. I also believe that I'm aware, as I've watched and listened to other public meetings, that this would be making a lot available for a building site in the center city and within walking or biking distance into the business district, providing an affordable home site with the possibility of adding residents without adding cars to the situation. An opportunity could be provided for an affordable lot for a low to moderate income family, as I believe is a concern in our town that is shared by many. In regards to the lack of the sewer line on Mound Street, even though I was a plumbing contractor in this town for 31 years, it's been 15 years since I've been a plumbing contractor, and my memory was foggy in the situation. And I filled this paperwork out a few days back and got a phone call from, well, let me read it. There's no sewer line in front of the proposed lot. I, of course, was surprised by that. I was completely unaware of that until day before yesterday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when I got a phone call from Mr. Sorois saying he had communications with Andy Stone saying there was no sewer line back there behind my proposed lot split. So I thought, and I asked Mr. Sorois when I could talk to him and see the picture, and he said, how about 2 o'clock? I said, okay, and that's when I showed up at Mr. Sorois' office. In the meantime, I drove over to Mount Street, got out, and tried to refresh my memory of the situation. There is a manhole in front of, I didn't write it down, but there is a manhole in front of 50 Mound Street. I'm assuming, because I didn't pop the lid, I'm assuming that goes down over the hill into the valley behind the houses that face Mound Street on the east side and the valley that's behind the houses on the west side of North Congress. I know there's a sewer main down through there because I had a lot of work on Congress Street back in those days. But anyway, I guess somehow when the city was installing infrastructure years ago, they must have taken only their current situation into consideration and did not address the possible future needs of the future owners of these lots, and took the easiest route out to accommodate the current residents and possibly the houses that are on the east side of Mound Street may have been there, because Mound Street has a little natural valley, and instead of them going to the lowest possible point between what I'll refer to as the manhole at 50 Mound Street and wherever the other end of the sewer line is up behind the houses farther to the north, there's just like an island behind those 3 or 4 lots where there's no service provided. Water service is provided because water service is provided and the water meters are in front of the houses on Mound Street, on both sides of the street. And there's painting on the road where Oops has been there for some reason, locating lines. So it's apparent the city put in a water main. It's also apparent that Columbia Gas put in a gas line. But for whatever reason, the city never put in a sewer line. Now I find myself victim of that situation. But I consider this to be a separate issue from the fact that I'm requesting a lot split. Whether it's a separate issue or not is up to you guys, or
Right, it's for us to,
people with greater
for us to
knowledge or
consider.
attorneys to figure out why I don't have access to a sewer line. But I don't feel I should be denied the lot split based on the merits of the lot split, as opposed to the lack of the city having readily available access that everybody else has to my north, south, east, and west.
Okay.
I find
Mr.
myself in a
Surroy,
dilemma.
do you have any comment on that? I think it's,
I do not.
okay.
I don't feel that this is,
That would be,
I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot split,
I've clearly provided to Mr. Stauffer our utility code that states that the developer will, at their cost, install,
Right.
infrastructure improvements where needed. And he's not happy with that answer. So I don't know.
Mr.
if you can-
Stauffer thinks he finds himself in a situation unique to somebody coming in here and wanting to do a subdivision. I'm not wanting to do a subdivision. I'm not putting in a subdivision. I'm not putting in sewers and water lines and curbs and streets. I'm merely trying to utilize, to my financial benefit, all of my property. It will also provide an opportunity for somebody to be able to purchase a lot at a relatively low cost in the inner city. The fact that the city didn't have the foresight to put a sewer line down the entire street and took the easiest route or the most logical route to accommodate the houses that were there at that time would seem to be what happened. But it puts me behind the 8 ball now, because where there should be a sewer line available, it appears it's not there. And to be perfectly honest, I think this needs to be researched by somebody, everybody, you, me, lawyers, whatever, as to why it's not there and why it shouldn't be under a city street that everybody to my north, south, east, and west has access to. Now, whether that's a separate issue from the lot split or whether it just complicates it, I'm not a lawyer.
My question, the reason I raised that is clearly you're aware of the fact that there is no sewer back there. I'm just saying it because you're the one who indicated that you were looking to possibly develop if this lot split goes through. So it's not contingent, through my lens, on the lot split and what you want to do. It's just making sure that you're aware that there is no sewer, and clearly you are, that runs down through that area. I would contend that the ages of the homes along Mound Street, which I'm well aware of their ages, as well as the age of the homes that are on North Lancaster, that whatever, water was provided way back when, as well as where sewer locations are, these aren't brand-new sewers that run through this area, and it was largely because, as looking at this GIS through, that I've seen for the first time now, many of your neighboring parcels on the Mound Street side, for parcels that go between North Lancaster and Mound Street, also don't have sewer, but there's also no homes. These were plats that were built on. It's a natural gravity feed, the direction of which flow goes. Hence my initial question, and this is more for the code office, director of code, is, I guess for my own edification at some point in time, is to identify, where are the sewer hookups for these, the west properties that are on this map.
I can go back and.
That's fine. I mean, that's not.
Check with engineering.
That's for another time in the near future. So again, clearly you're aware of what's down there.
What also appears, I haven't done any, I didn't know I haven't had this dilemma until 2 o'clock on Tuesday, but from just looking and being experienced at homes and buildings, it appears to me that there have been 2 lot splits apparently at some point in time to the north of the subject area that have been split off. They are on your, if Mr. Soroyce gave you the the white map that shows, no, if that's all you have, you don't have it. I've got it over here, maybe he's got it over there. But right next door to my 128 property is Beverly Flanagan's property that also goes clear to Mound Street. And then the next two lots over appear to have been split down the middle and newer homes built there, newer being 25, 30, 35 years ago, based on looking at their structure. Also, to the south side of my property, there is one lot that is not developed on the Mound Street side, but the next lot to the south has a house that looks like it was split off the back side and developed. So those things have happened in the past. I understand the past doesn't have anything to do with the future, but I just between a rock and a hard place
Right. So,
through no fault of my own.
right. But the lot split would be a separate issue from the service issues that you're describing.
Well,
Okay.
I would like to talk about that planning commission numbers because I believe that we have included in the past in other minor subdivisions that have come to us, directing them from the city engineer about where they would either have to obtain water or sewer. Geysers comes to mind, that place at Peach Ridge, and and we clearly include that because if you make, I'm not sure that they can indeed be separated. I guess I'm asking. And I know this is just communication, so we're just discussing. So
No, you're right. I'd forgotten about that property. Okay.
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 Thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Stouffer?
Okay, I remain unclear as to how we proceed from this point.
Okay. Well, if you're suggesting that the services aspect goes with the lot split,
I contend that this is
then
how we would
I
look
guess
at
that
utilities.
sounds like that would have to be resolved.
And then I still need an answer on this non-conforming and how that, whether or not that even plays in. Christie, I appreciate your review on that.
You're talking non-conformance on this front setback?
Front setback.
Yeah.
Is that your
but
question? Because
yeah.
there's also the non-conformance with the lot size.
Right, that's what I'm
Well,
throwing
That's
in.
there's a subdivision non-conformance, so that's actually creating two non-conformances.
Okay,
Right.
so that's creating a new
That's a
nonconformity.
variance to council.
Okay,
The non-conformance with the setback, I mean, I don't have a good answer for what that means, but that's a zoning non-conformance.
Right.
Or if it is a non-conformance, that's a zoning question. So if there's a variance needed to be awarded to, then that's a Board of
well,
Zoning
it
Appeals.
looks to me like the setback nonconformity would not be increased, but
Right.
based
I
on
would
what
agree
you're
with that,
saying, and just looking at the numbers here, you would be creating two nonconforming lots in terms of the area of the
Right.
lots.
It
Right.
reduces the two existing lots. The line that I put across the back, the dotted line where it says 30-foot rear setback,
Right.
is just a line that I put there just to show that
Right.
it is indeed, there's room
Right.
for a 30-foot setback and much more ground.
And what I'm saying is that I don't think, like, what you're proposing doesn't increase the nonconformity in terms of setbacks. So that is not an issue. But what you're proposing, if 800 square feet is the requirement for a lot size, you're proposing to take two lots that at this point meet that requirement and bring them into nonconformance, essentially. Like, they will be under both the two existing lots, when you break off the back portion, will be less than 800 square feet.
8,000.
8,000 square feet.
8,000, I'm sorry.
Correct. And, I mean, that line, from my perspective, or my point of view, or position, the line that I drew there, or that I dotted in there, or the fact that I drew it 100 feet wide because the two lots are 50 feet, the reason I drew the line at 80 feet back was just to come up with 8,000 square feet. I am not opposed to, or I remain flexible about that line being anywhere the city would want it to be. But when I get the 8,000 square feet
Right.
from Mound Street, then the two existing lots that face Lancaster Street become 6,800 square feet. So,
That's kind of my point, is that given the area of the two lots together, you can't create three lots that all meet the 8,000
Correct.
square feet
Correct, it's not there.
requirement. So that's creating a nonconformity that doesn't exist at this point.
and that was one of my main questions to the code office when I approached them the first time, was that I don't want to come to get my rental permit next year and have somebody look at a piece of paper and go, you can't have a rental permit. That's not 8,000 square foot lot. So that's what I, of course, want to avoid.
Right, and that's, I mean, that would, I'm not sure what the process is, but this would create a new need for a variance.
Right.
Either through us or through zoning appeals or whoever would handle that particular,
This is one of
Area of
those
the
that's
code.
not simple.
yeah.
And we had quite some discussion of how we're going to approach this. And I wanted to bring it to the commissioners because, well, I figured we could discuss it and then see how we could approach it.
Clearly, we need to have some research that needs to be done.
We do.
Ms. Bain?
I've got two questions, and I've also got a comment. Don Harth, I think, built those two houses on
They
Mount
all
Street.
three look like they're harsh Cridler houses,
Yeah,
yes.
that's right. And they're up, the slope is a little bit grade up into their driveway, is that correct?
On all three of them,
All
yes.
three of them. And it would be also in yours?
That's the reason that I didn't come to you wanting to squeeze two 50-foot wide lots like those other three houses that are, we assume, by Harsh Cridler. That's the reason I didn't come to propose to maybe maximize my potential profit. Because of the topography, it seemed to me to be completely logical to have one lot, create it 8,000 square feet, make it 100-foot wide, so the driveway, you know, a lot can be done with a bulldozer and some concrete, or a backhoe and some concrete, to bring that will allow the driveway to come in on some sort of a, what I will refer to as a 45-degree angle, some angle, so it's not, you know, doesn't create a steep driveway or a dangerous driveway. Was my reasoning when I came up with this plan.
I still ask another
Okay.
question.
Ms. Bain?
If you come back, perhaps before you come, you could ask where Harth and Kreidler emptied their sewage, because it seems to me that unless they pumped it up the hill with a grinder.
Well, it looks, I mean, I didn't pop the manhole off in front of 50 Mount Street. And when I say 50 Mount Street is not the potential Harsh Cridler house. It's the old existing house on the east side of Mount Street that is number 50. But just using logic, it would seem to me that more than likely the Harsh Cridler house on the south end of what we're talking about, or nearest downtown, probably goes directly into that manhole. I didn't open the manhole to look.
Okay.
And I didn't see a manhole down on what I'll refer to as the north end of Mound Street. I don't know, and I didn't see a clean out for that, for either one of those little houses down there. I saw the water meters, but I didn't see the clean outs. But apparently they tie into the city main. Is that's accurate or somewhat accurate?
I just wondered, as another piece of information I'd like, I guess, is I'd like to see a slope map. This reminds me a lot of my backyard, Jack. And,
Well,
you know, and I don't really, I think it would enhance our understanding of what's going on, because I've heard Beverly say that she'd like to do this too. And I think that, you know, you do have potential along that street if you look at it. Not all the spot is taken up by parking, but, you know, I don't know. In the future, if we think it a little differently, no promises. I would say the lots are non-conforming by width to depth ratio already. So, you know,
Yeah, how,
They are, I mean, they're.
how those houses appeared, or
It's
what the
within-
government did or didn't do, or whether they just popped up, I have no
They're
clue about that.
pre-zoning. It's okay, I mean, you're forgiven. It's pre-zoning. Because we didn't pass the code, isn't your house older than 1969?
Houses on Lancaster Street?
Yeah, of
Oh, they're
course.
from the 20s or 30s.
Okay, so I mean, it's non-conforming by definition practically, but it is narrow. It's too narrow. And it doesn't look like it has off-street parking, does it? Or does it?
Are you talking about my houses
Yeah,
at
yours.
124 and 128? They
Yeah.
both have concrete driveways big
That
enough
they
for
use?
3 cars each.
Okay. That's good. I just didn't see a big slab in
Well, you
the,
can't see it on that
okay, so my
aerial
questions.
photograph, but if you drive up there and look, you will see 2 concrete driveways side by side, almost full depth, well, big enough for 3 full-size cars to fit in without blocking the sidewalk. Because that's the way I wanted to do it, because I like to do things in a methodical, useful pattern.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments at this time? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stauffer.
Okay, now, may I ask one more question?
Sure.
What do we do?
Okay. I'm still unclear as to who's going to do what first or next, or what my procedure is. But what has now become a concern for me, beyond wanting to be able to develop this lot, is the fact there's no sewer line under the street, which I think you would find on most city streets in the city of Athens, that a sewer line goes the entire length of the street. Why the city didn't put it there, I don't know. But it seems like there should be a sewer line there. There's a water line there. And I know back when I was a plumbing contractor, and I was putting in new sewer lines for people in residences and commercial buildings all over town, you never, a citizen or a contractor, never, ever, ever digs up under a city street, because I was always told that you just go to the property line or the right-of-way or the edge of the street, and the city takes it from there. That's what I thought I was proposing to do. And at 2 o'clock day before yesterday, I found out that's not possible. And I feel that I'm not allowed to dig up the street. It's not my job to dig up the street. And I think we're in uncharted territory.
Paula?
Well, I don't agree. As we know, we've had other places that we've identified, so.
But you're asking me to...
Jack, well, this is just communications, so now you're asking us
trying to
next step.
communicate.
So,
You're asking me to dig up the street and run a sewer line across Mount Street and down through other people's private property to get to a city sewer line.
or as a
I don't
city,
think that's legal, and I don't think it's logical, and
or as a
that's where I
city,
find myself.
or as the city engineer has directed, you could drive, pump it through your own property to the back. I get that might be cost prohibitive, but that is an option.
You mean a grinder
So,
pump? Is that what he said?
So I think that we need the answers to this variance issue and nonconformance. And so we can work on that and provide some direction back to Mr. Stauffer. And I can get, the written recommendation from the city engineer regarding the sewer.
Will the planning commissioners want to see platted survey?
I don't know. I'd like to, you talking about a grinder pump going up the hill?
Let me say one more thing,
Is that what you want?
because
That's
now
what he said.
Okay. Does he know that?
I want to remain
Okay.
professional and polite, but I got to make my point. When I went to the code office, I was told I needed to have a survey done before I could even address this body, which I'm not a lawyer. It didn't make logical sense to me to go hire somebody to survey a piece of property that might not even be approved. And when I talked to a surveyor, they said, normally it's not that way. And when I watch the Planning Commission meetings previously, I see the big companies come up here with a purchase agreement. I own the property. I'm not coming here with a purchase agreement to possibly do something, R.E. Menards. I just want to be able to develop my property at the least expense possible in the fairest way possible to me. And again, it's only been 48 hours since I found this out, but I've assumed since the 80s there was a sewer line under that street, and there's not. And it seems like there should be. And I don't think it's up to me to install city infrastructure. It's up to me to get a pipe to the edge of my property. Of course, I'm willing to do that. But I don't want this to become a legal issue. I just want to maximize my property, have a lot available for somebody to be able to have a home in town, and sell the other properties.
Well, I think Paula has spoken as far as the city is concerned there. So those options have been laid out. And correct me if I'm wrong, but then it would seem that you need to have a resolution between yourself and code as far as how that might proceed, along with the variances before really coming back here. So in other words, these other matters seem to be interlocked with the lot split at this point, and I would think then that those issues need to be addressed before we probably can address the lot split itself. Would that be correct?
So what I'm hearing is we need to address the lack of city sewer services available to that property before we proceed any further with the possible lot split.
There were multiple items. We talked about the nonconformity and reviewing that language. So we will do that. I will task Rick Royce and myself to work with the city engineer regarding that, and get your response. So.
Okay, and when whatever the response might be from Mr. Royce or you folks or Mr. Stone, are we then going to run that by the city attorney to make sure that you're on firm legal standing, or do I need to hire a lawyer to get my legal rights or perspective addressed?
My best legal advice is always to seek legal advice. So.
That didn't sound very encouraging, but I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Menards Title 41 update.
Yes, we're planning to present Menards at the April 20th meeting. Originally, I had scheduled for the 6th, but we were waiting for some reports from them. So the current plan is to present Menards at the April 20th Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
Plus, we have some BZA, the next BZA meeting also is in between now and then, and they're going to be going to that.
Okay.
So we need the results from that.
Okay. Any questions, comments about that?
I do. I didn't know the BZA granted the variances on the wireless telecommunications.
Now, we're talking
Oh, I'm in the
Menards.
wrong place.
He asked me about Menards.
It got to be a long afternoon, so.
I was just as
aggravated. It's
confused when
still
he asked me
early,
about
too.
Menards.
Let's see,
Okay.
moving on, oh,
Yeah, we need to make sure that we address the wireless communication that we skipped. to get to the
okay,
wireless.
yes. Let's see, the Title 43, wireless telecommunications, 36 South Court Street, OU campus rooftop, sled mounted.
Yes, this is communications for another modification. It was addressed that this is not an Ohio University property. It was brought to my attention by the Safety Service Director and the city planner. So yes, this is just another modification of a sled, rooftop sled, and will be presented for case next meeting.
Thank you, Christie. Also, the Horvath Communications Title 43 update.
We currently have all their information, and I plan on presenting it at the April 20th meeting, and I do believe everyone has emailed all that information, all probably 200 pages.
Okay.
Well, I feel like we need to review that. I just printed mine out this morning, at least, going through the list, and I'm
That's
going
fine.
but maybe we do that at the next meeting. I also have a communique, if I may, to pass out today from David Avarian of Ohio University, showing a graphic of the options available in the area that could be evaluated and not as obtrusive as Fairgrounds property offering their new campus boiler. They show existing site and proposed site plans that feel that it might accommodate.
Who gets to see that?
I'm just passing it to each person.
The council.
Would you be able to email that to me, please?
Can.
Okay. Anything else on that, Chris or Paul?
I mean,
Okay.
just
That would conclude communications then. Report from the city planner, Mr. Logue.
Do we have 10 minutes so I can fly through a brief presentation about the comprehensive plan?
Christie, are you good?
Sure, I've got plenty of time.
Paula, we're good?
good.
That's fine.
I'm tired.
I'll try to keep it brief and. While I'm unbuttoning and rebuttoning, I shared one communication just to convey that I believe the sustainability plan has just had second reading in city council. But what I wanted to talk about briefly was comprehensive plan update, which is, I've been mentioning, we're going to begin in 2017, which is this year. Can I get the PowerPoint up? There we go, okay.
Ooh, pretty.
So we need to do an update of our comprehensive plan. Mayor Patterson has stated this as a goal when he was elected. Our current plan was adopted in roughly 2006, so we're about 10 or 11 years out, so we are due. What I would like to do, just a little bit of background. When we did our last plan, there was a considerable amount of city financial resources that were appropriated and spent to do that comprehensive plan. My understanding is it was anywhere from $250,000 up to maybe $400,000 to cover the cost of that plan. We're not going to do that this time. We're going to try to keep it a lot more streamlined and efficient with cost. And so most of this work we're going to be doing in-house. I've got some small funding, much appreciated from City Council, to bring in some interns and to bring in some part-time staff to assist with a lot of the work, but we're going to do it almost all in-house this time. So what do we need to do for a new plan? The first step that we want to do is to set a vision for our future as a community, and then take that vision and start and put together a plan to move us towards it. We want to see consensus on key topics, learn and explore our community, learn about our neighbors and the people in our community, and learn more about ourselves as Athenians. We want people to be open-minded and challenge each other to try something new and think about our community in different ways. Process is pretty simple. Start with a vision, do some visioning sessions with the community. I've identified ideally I'd like to work with the Athens Foundation. They've done some visioning in the past, and I'm discussing how we can work with them to create a visioning session. Take a vision, get a draft vision established, begin building a plan, working within our neighborhoods, within our corridors, and within groups to find out how to get us towards that vision as a community. Revise the plan, revise our draft, et cetera, and then move from draft to an adopted plan. I couldn't find a good image for adoption, so I found a picture of my dog because she was adopted. The comprehensive plan for a vision, what does the vision do versus the plan? A lot of people get confused, and it may not be very clear. But we want the vision will drive. It gives the plan drive and direction. It sets the standard, kind of our goal or what we dream of, a city on the hill, perhaps. It tells us where we want to go, and then it provides a test for the policies that we develop through the planning process. So we can say, well, this is what we think we should do in the plan. This is what we recommend. And then we look back and say, well, does that fit within the vision that we've established? And if not, we probably should talk about other policies that bring us back to the vision. Or say, is this our actual vision, or did our vision change from when we started the plan to when we got towards the end? So we may have to revise that as well. And then the vision would explain why the plan is the plan. It basically gives it justification. More on the vision, it's our yardstick. It helps us to make group decision making, create new answers to existing problems. It gets us towards consensus, and it sets the tone for what to do, not how to do it. The plan will tell us how to do it. You can't read this very well, probably on your handout or up there. I tried to find our vision from the 2006 plan, and it's kind of buried. But what I found was, and this is a direct pull out from the plan, the vision includes the recognition that quality of life hinges on a quality environment with clean water, clean air, wildlife corridors, parks, and protected view sheds, in balance with needed employment opportunities and economic development. Economic development includes purposefully building on the strength of Ohio University as a job-creating engine of emerging ideas and technology, along with the development of unique local businesses reflective of local culture. The vision also embraces the importance of stable and appealing neighborhoods, preserved historic sites, and a unique sense of place and urban character, woven together with a transportation system that includes automobiles, transit, pedestrians, and bicycle movement. So it's all the way back in 2006. When you look through our plan, I think it does a really good job of reflecting back on that vision, even though the vision's kind of buried in there. And I think we've actually, if you think about Athens today versus 2006, a lot of the policies and things we've implemented citywide really do fall in line with that vision, surprisingly enough. Jack's not here anymore, but he said he hadn't read the plan, so.
Don't anybody else.
Okay, so now the difference between the vision and the plan. The plan is a document that lays out the implementation of the vision. Ideally, we're going to give recommendations that can be implemented through legislative and administrative policies such as zoning, public improvements, development policies, etc. And if nothing else, we'll have a timeline for action that identifies short, mid, and long-range goals. The plan should get input from a wide range of Athenians to better understand issues and problems. I'll talk a little bit about that in a few slides about how we're going to do that. The plan should identify the solutions to the problems. Ideally, or what I'd like to do is have a plan that focuses on our neighborhoods and corridors, as well as key issues such as housing growth and redevelopment, the environment, and urban design. Now that's me. Those are housing growth, redevelopment, environment, and urban design. That's me already setting in my head what I think we'll be talking about, but it's very possible when we go through the visioning that we'll learn that those aren't priorities for a plan. I'd be surprised if they're not. Just when you look at a lot of community plans, those are key issues that we have, or those are key issues that surface. And most communities are more or less the same if you think about it. We're all just people. We vary a little bit from city to city and town to town with what our problems are and what our goals are, but you know, housing and redevelopment and design and aesthetics, those are all things that people talk about. how our built environment looks, and of course, how our natural environment interacts too. A little bit more, just again, I don't know if I need to bore you with this, but difference between a vision and a plan. In short, our vision is our dream, and the plan is our blueprint. And then there's a few other different ideas of how they differ and what traits we're trying to get from a vision versus our plan. And then the plan and the vision interact. The plan moves us towards the vision. The vision and the plan, they feed off each other and they support each other. During a planning process, we need to revisit the vision to make sure it is in line with what is possible. And our vision should be a stretch, but reachable. If we don't think it's attainable, we should probably talk about what might be reachable if we really work towards it. And a key part of any planning process is going to be public engagement. Now, when we did the plan back in 2006, from a planning process, the internet and using online surveys and those type of things was a very nascent technology. Things have changed significantly in the last 10 or 11 years. So we have a lot of advantages today with how to do public outreach at a lot lower price. When we did the 2006 survey or planning, we actually, a big cost was doing telephone survey work. You had to pay people to call and then ask questions over the phone, and they did about, I think, 1,000 telephone surveys. That's not cheap work to do that professionally, and that was one of the things they invested in. We don't need to do that now. Nobody's going to answer the phone anyway. We just had a Connect Ohio meeting, Intelligent Communities meeting, and the gentleman, Stu Nicholson, who runs Connect Ohio, he said people don't, if they have a landline in 2017, nobody answers their phone after the last election because as Ohioans, we were so inundated with survey and push calls and all of that for the presidential election that we don't answer it. I know I don't answer my phone unless I know who's calling. So, public engagement. We're going to do public forums, of course. Some of those will be citywide. Some of those forums will be working within neighborhoods specifically and trying to target the communities to learn more about those neighborhoods, but also understanding that people who are in a neighborhood all the time probably have really good ideas and solutions to how to improve those neighborhoods. Meetings in a box is a format we've identified where we basically create documents and we create questions in a format, and we ask maybe a group of neighbors to meet amongst themselves without me being present or any city staff. We give them documents and questions to ask, and they can go around and they can collect information and have a community dialogue as neighbors, as a church group, as a knitting circle, as a Rotary Club, or whatever it might be. They can that way they can sit around and feel like they have an opportunity to provide information to us in a really laid-back atmosphere, and they don't feel like I'm driving them to give an answer that I want to hear or something like that. And also, if they don't feel comfortable coming to a public forum at the community center or something if they don't feel comfortable speaking out or giving their 2 cents in that type of meeting, it gives another opportunity. Pop-up engagement, that just means kind of stopping people on the street, asking them for a few minutes to fill out information, having interns or somebody standing in front of the courthouse or in front of City Hall or at the community center or a football game or something, and just trying to get people to spend a few minutes with us to give us some information. Online surveys, of course. Social media, using Facebook and Instagram are really effective ways to get outreach and get information back. When we did our last plan, Instagram and things, they didn't exist. Of course, our smartphones, we didn't have cellular technologies and smartphone technologies in 2006. They gave hundreds, if not more, disposable cameras and asked people to go around to their neighborhoods and take pictures of what they liked, what they didn't like, what was good, what was better, what was bad, and document all that. And I mean, I've got in my office, I think I have thousands of photographs from that. So they paid to get the cameras, and then they paid to develop all that film. Now we can basically do the exact same task, but people can do it on their phones. And they can give us that information, we can record it digitally, and there's no cost involved. Participant challenges, we talked about that, or I've identified that. We already have some things like that in our community. Challenge by choice, where somebody basically takes on the experience of living with a disability for a day. I did that last year, and my challenge for the day was to go without vision, or to be vision impaired, worse than I am with my glasses. Some people, they do go in a wheelchair, so that's a way for you to better understand your community and how you can get around if you have a mobility problem or mental health situation. And so you can then experience that and provide information back about looking at your community in a way that you hadn't considered it previously. You might ask somebody to go without a vehicle, go without a car for a week, tell us how they got around or what challenges they interacted with, or even for a day, or just walk for a day, don't drive. Maybe go walk around a neighborhood, or go into a neighborhood that you typically don't go in, and walk around it and try to learn about it and give us feedback about what you think is good or bad or what could be improved. So we have new sets of eyes on in our community. And then we'll do a steering committee, of course. Steering committee, what we've identified, I say we, but it's been mostly me at this point. I have been working with Mayor Patterson and Council Planning and Development Chair Chris Fall as well. Steering committee, about 25 people roughly. We've identified 1 seat from each board and commission of the city being on the steering committee. So the Planning Commission would have 1 representative, the Board of Zoning Appeals would, the Shade Tree Commission, et cetera. They would all have, and then we've identified other people around the community who may also have a lot of information or knowledge or be experts on issues. A realtor, for example, might be very beneficial to have relating to housing and development. Landlord, somebody who works with people with developmental disabilities, perhaps, to provide some information to us. Low to moderate income housing, advocates within our neighborhoods, people like that, so that we can get more information to help guide the plan. And if nothing else, the steering committee would be representing a public if the public chooses not to be involved, or if help to get people to attend meetings and kind of give information back. Okay, there's my timeline. I don't want to go through each point unless you really want me to. I know your time is valuable. We have been doing a lot of work starting back in 2016, basically starting by convening a steering committee towards the end of this month, doing visioning workshops in May and June, getting a vision drafted by the end of June 2017, and then starting a social media and survey launch in June. Doing a lot of the district and the neighborhood meetings, et cetera, June through September. Getting a draft based on all of that information in October, and then doing additional workshops and revisions into November and December to revise that draft. Getting a final plan presented to the Planning Commission and to Council in January I think that says January of 2017, but it should be 2018. Having a final plan adopted in February 2018, and then getting a implementation committee convened in March of 2018. So that's a pretty aggressive timeline. I actually bumped it out by about 3 months just yesterday when I was looking through this. I was thinking possibly getting it done by the end of this year, but I don't think that's very possible. Even this is pretty aggressive. But kind of going back to that vision, it's aggressive, but I think it's a stretch, but it's reachable, I guess. And I mentioned steering committee but the responsibilities of the steering committee would be to attend meetings, of course, and provide public representation if needed. But also as we go through the process and we hear from people that there's specific issues that come up. Maybe it's an issue that we think needs a little bit more exploration. We've heard it in a few different neighborhoods or something. So we would ask the steering committee or some volunteers from the steering committee to convene some sort of an ad hoc committee to take a deeper dive into an issue. Maybe something that is controversial or we can't reach consensus on. an issue I know we've heard about several times at the Planning Commission and at city staff has been like bed and breakfast and how to address that. Well, maybe representatives from the steering committee can take a deeper dive into that and then see if there is a way to get consensus or a way to get a resolution on that or a firm recommendation on how to address it through our zoning code. Maybe housing issues, how to get more housing in the city, how to explore subdivision regulations, just like is the 8,000 square foot requirement, is that the right number, for example? Do we want to allow for a little bit more housing in neighborhoods, and maybe we want to shrink that down from 8,000 to 5,000 square feet or something. Attend meetings, of course, and stay updated, and then give feedback to myself and the staff that we're working with on what we're doing and what is needed as we move forward. So the next steps, like I talked about there, convening a steering committee, getting planning assistance on board, starting our visioning session in June, beginning the social media aspects and the district workshops and the pop-up engagement. And that's it. That's a quick crash course.
Any questions, comments?
Lots of
As far as a member representing the Planning Commission, when would you need to have?
What I'm going to do is once, I want to give a presentation to council as well to make sure that council is more or less on board with this process. If you have any concerns about, or thoughts about, I'm not expecting, I know I just threw all this at you right now. Feel free to give me feedback, email or phone call is fine as well if you have additional comments. Once I basically get an okay that, sure, let's convene a steering committee, I will send out an email to the chair of each board and commission or to whoever I know on that board or commission and ask them to bring it up at one of their meetings or to decide amongst themselves who to appoint. I'm indifferent. It would seem to me that with the planning commission, since the mayor and the safety director are already very active in these issues on a day-to-day basis, that one of the 3 citizen representatives would make more sense. No offense to our safety director
Well,
or to our mayor.
I think we agree with that. It should be a citizen.
Yeah.
I believe the mayor is already identified as a steering committee member, as is Chris Fall, city council, of course.
No other comments? Thank you, Mr. Logue. Did you have anything else in terms of your report?
Lots of work.
Okay. Mr. Surroy?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, come
Just
on.
much paper.
There's one thing.
Well, I was notified that Mr. Ryan was ill and could not make this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, opportunity for citizens to speak. There are no members of our live audience here to address the commission. Announcements and other business. All right, next meeting is April 20th, 2017. And with our business concluded, this meeting is adjourned.